what was the deciding factor for you to run?
A lot of things, actually. The wars, for one. The economy. When we had our business basically destroyed by the economic collapse in this country, it starts making a man think about what's going on. We start researching much of the actions of the government, and I didn't like what I saw in the government, what they were doing, how they were interceding in private industry, bailouts to car companies, to financial institutions. I just didn't feel that it was appropriate, and it didn't fit in with my understanding of the Constitution, which I had been studying for several years. So I decided that if the elected politicians wouldn't do anything about it and act according to what our founders had thought was the right path, then I would throw my hat into the ring, because I know I will.
Gun laws, and there's a lot of back and forth with, some people are saying, oh yeah, take all the guns away from law-abiding people, which leaves guns for the bad guys, and other people saying, no, it's our constitutional right to bear arms.
That's a fact.
So
I'm a proponent for the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that every American citizen has a right to own a gun, to bear arms, and it should never be infringed upon. I believe that the founders really had a strong intent with establishing the Second Amendment, because when they did that, they helped to put in a mechanism to thwart off a tyrannical government. They experienced that very deeply in their time, and they knew that at some point in time in the future, it may be necessary to at least have the appearance that the people control the arms, not the government.
our forefathers were fighting against Britain, fighting for their rights.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any similarities between what Britain was doing at that time with the taxation, the way they were handling the government, what they were imposing on the people? Do you see any similarities between that and the way our government is running right now?
Actually, I do. Obviously, there's a difference. That was a foreign country that was our mother country to begin with. But in a lot of respects, the government right now is operating in a similar fashion. They are overburdening the people with taxes, businesses with taxes, and they're really not adhering to the people's will, in my view. Most people that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of people, they're under the understanding that we should have lower taxes, not higher taxes. They should be heard. Their voice should be heard with their elected representatives to lower these taxes, and the elected representatives and the government just doesn't seem to listen to what the people are saying.
What's your position, or how do you feel about the Fair Tax Act that's being brought up?
I'm a proponent for a fair tax. I'm also a proponent to eliminate the 16th Amendment and rewrite a more fair and balanced amendment. Mm-hmm. Of course, I would rather see no taxes at all, mm-hmm. but it's not logical mm-hmm. in our society to have a government that has the capacity to defend our nation to not have the ability to pay for that defense. So therefore, I would have to agree to some level of taxation. However, I do have a different view than some people. With that view is that I believe that every American citizen should have a stake in the tax system. In other words, every single person, i.e. taxpayer, should have to pay a certain percentage of their tax to the government to help the programs that the government puts in place for the general welfare of the nation. I have a plan that I put on my website that eliminates the 16th Amendment, but also we rewrite the 16th Amendment to a new amendment, which is a fair tax that everybody in the country would pay between 7 and 9% of their income. There would be no exceptions to that rule. Obviously, you would have certain deductions to bring your base amount down, but generally, everybody should have to pay 7 to 9%. And that will help get the government in check as well as I'm concerned, because right now, the tax code, in my view, is used as a weapon in a lot of respects against the people, and on top of that, it's used as a tool to help their supporters, if you will, or people that have helped the politicians get into office. And I don't think that's the right thing. It shouldn't be used that way.
Mm-hmm. I had someone ask me, kind of to get your opinion, the Fair Tax Act, being that IRS, would be abolished, and what would happen was they would put a 22% tax on consumables, and that would take care of the IRS and the other things that they're doing.
Which is similar to the value-added tax. I don't agree with the value-added tax, because what happens with the value-added tax, and in Europe it's been proven to be a very complex tax system for one, and it doesn't really provide a good benefit across the board and an incentive to the industries that are making product. Whereas in a value-added tax, every component of a specific product has its own tax, and it gets added on as it goes through a process of manufacturing. Whereas in Europe, I can give you a good example in Germany. Some of the manufacturing firms there, they may have components, 30 or 40 individual components inside one component, and it causes the cost of that component to rise 80%, which means your products are selling for more, and it makes it harder for an individual to be able to afford to buy that product. I'm a proponent of free market systems. Limit the taxation. It's been proven over time, when you cut taxes, revenues in the government can go up. It's a proven fact, and this administration, what they're doing now, is doing opposite of what history has taught us.